Hey everybody, this is the WWE podcast, and tonight I've got Mimi Burris back to discuss the WWE current state of affairs. We look ahead to the Royal Rumble. We give our Royal Rumble picks, our updated Royal Rumble picks, as we are now 1 week away from the Royal Rumble event. Boy, oh boy, we get into everything here. This is a fun one. Let's get everything started right now.
Welcome to the WWE podcast. The most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? Because Stone Cold said so.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And tonight we've got a really, really fun co-host, and Mimi Burris, who has also got her own show here on the WWE Podcast Network, doing the highs and lows of the week. So she has her own show that you can listen to, and tonight she joins me to discuss everything that happened this week in wrestling and more as we dive into potential WrestleMania outcomes, the Royal Rumble. Of course, we give our picks towards the end of the show, our updated picks that seem to be changing week to week. But it was, of course, a lot of fun. Always is to have her on the show. And I'm sure many of you are excited to hear her in a long form audio to discuss wrestling at length. So, again, we're going to get to that in just a minute. But first, let me tell you guys that the Botch Guy is going to be back on the show, as he always is, post pay-per-view. So next Sunday night, the Botch Guy will be back in full force to talk Royal Rumble results. So that show will be dropping late Saturday night or late Sunday night, early Monday morning for your listening pleasure. And that also means that this Saturday night, we'll be doing a Royal Rumble preview and prediction show, our full final preview and prediction before the pay-per-view on Sunday night. We'll be doing Saturday, so you'll be able to hear that on Saturday night, and of course, all day Sunday will be available to you. The Botch Guy, again, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, check it out. I mean, just go to YouTube, check out the Botch Guy. Great YouTube channel for wrestling fans. Very short form audio, or video, I should say, and entertaining as hell, and just a great personality, magnetic, high energy, everything you want and need in a YouTube channel, especially for wrestling fans. So check out the Botch Guy on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, and you can catch him right here on the WWE podcast on the Royal Rumble results show, the review show. So that'll be, again, late Sunday night, early Monday morning. So a couple more things. I promise they're brief, and then we're going to get to the conversation with Mimi. If you'd like to support the show, we have a new way to do it. You head on over to WWEpodcast.com, and there's an Amazon banner there. It's just below the headlines. And what that does is, if you do any shopping on Amazon and you click that link first, it redirects you to Amazon, but it gives a little bit back to the show for whatever you buy. It's not one of those, you got to pay more if you click on it. No, there's nothing that you will be charged extra. It just says to Amazon, hey, this person sent you here, therefore we're going to give them a little bit of what we make. So that's all it's for. Again, it just tells Amazon that you were sent from that individual, and it's a great way to support the show, guys. I know I do a ton of shopping on Amazon, like too much. I mean, every time I get mail and I pull up to my driveway, I swear I see an Amazon box at my front door. It's just crazy. So if you do any shopping on Amazon, I'm sure you do, start at the WWEpodcast.com website and click on the link. Click on the banner. It's, again, right below the headlines. You'll see it. It's pretty obvious. So one last thing. If you guys haven't checked out Anthony DeMarco's rivalries this week with Triple H versus Brock Lesnar, it's a must listen. It's a great breakdown of their program that spanned a couple of years. It's a great way to dive into a program that maybe you didn't appreciate at the time. Maybe you underappreciated it. This one will help you appreciate this angle much more. I know it helped me as I listened to it, especially towards the end of the show when he breaks down how Stephanie McMahon actually played the babyface in order to get Brock Lesnar to fight Triple H. So It was a nice, really in-depth breakdown, as he always does. I know that he puts a lot of time and thought into these rivalries, and of course puts some audio in to bring you into the moment. And he does it, of course, several times throughout the show this time. And so I thought it was really good the way he broke down Stephanie McMahon and how awful she was as a babyface, which is so true. I mean, she just feels so unnatural. Her voice screams heel. I'm glad I don't hear Stephanie McMahon on my TV every week, but the fact that she was a babyface during part of this program, this, as Anthony points out, this is pre the whole Authority era. That's how far back we're talking. So check it out as you would on the WWE podcast feed. It's under Rivalries. We posted it just a few days ago. So again, my thoughts on Triple H versus Lesnar, underappreciated, and needs to go. We need to go back and look at it, because it was an intense rivalry, one that I think, as you look back, you don't think some of the greats are Triple H versus Brock Lesnar, but I think maybe we could rethink that if you go back and watch some of the matches that they had and the program and the build up to it. So, okay, let's get to the week in review with Mimi Burris as we break down everything that we could in the time allotted of this week in WWE. Guys, you know what I'm going to say. Thank you so much. I'll be back for my Raw review on Tuesday. And until then, I'll talk to you next time. Welcome to your week in review. And tonight, I've got Mimi back. You guys know her as the host of the week's review of highs and lows in wrestling. We just dropped her episode this afternoon, and you guys can check that out on the feed. But I'm really excited to have her in, I was going to say in studio, but I guess virtually in the studio here to talk about this week in wrestling on a more in-depth level. It's a week before the Royal Rumble, and we have a ton to get to, including our early picks on who could win the men's and women's Royal Rumble. That is very fluid, especially on both of our ends of who could win those matches. But first, Mimi, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you here. I know our listeners are too.
Well, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Well, excellent. I mean, it's always great to have you here, especially that we are a week from the Rumble, a week from the road to WrestleMania, and we've got so much to talk about. And really, there's a couple of ways I could go tonight to open it up and really where we want to jump in. And I think I'll start with what I saw last. That's how my mind works, and that would be Kevin Owens and his, I guess, return, but he returned last week, his invasion of SmackDown, since he wasn't supposed to be there, and Roman Reigns is pulling strings with somebody. Apparently he can bully officials and call the shots, and we're still not really clear on exactly who he's able to pull the strings with, or how or why that works. Nonetheless, Kevin Owens comes in after it was supposed to be at the end of SmackDown, Adam Pearce versus Paul Heyman. And Kevin Owens saves Adam Pearce from disaster as he was about to do what Roman did to Kevin Owens about a month prior. And he hits a couple of stunners. He pop-up powerbombed Roman Reigns through the table. And I mean, I love this. It's the first time that I think Roman Reigns really got beat down and left laying for SmackDown to end. I mean, I can't, I'm sure it's happened maybe once, but since his heel turn, this may have been the biggest beatdown that Roman Reigns has received. So, did you enjoy this, first of all? And are you enjoying this angle? I know it's the third time now that these guys are having a match, and this will be their blow-off, essentially, at the Royal Rumble and the Last Man Standing. But what do you think about this angle and what happened, of course, on SmackDown with KO?
Yeah, I loved I went into this, or I watched the end of SmackDown, and afterwards I felt like a feeling of satisfaction, which I think is how I know they did this the right way, if that makes any sense. I think like this is like a whole larger conversation about like real heels in WWE and what makes a real heel and heel heat and all that stuff. And when you feel satisfaction of when they get their butt whooped like he did, and that pop-up powerbomb looked beautiful, like flawless. No bouncing off the table and the table breaking weird or anything like that. Like it looked flawless, and it was satisfying because I legitimately don't like the character Roman Reigns. I can't say that for a lot of other heels. You know, I think a lot of other ones, Bayley, Sami Zayn included, are like entertaining to the point where I enjoy watching them on the TV. I don't get the same satisfaction of seeing them get beat up, but I think, that feeling I got after SmackDown, went off the air tells me that they're doing something right here. I enjoy this. And I enjoyed watching Kevin Owens get, the upper hand, because I'm pretty, 99% sure he's not going to win at the Rumble, but it was nice to just see him get some payback. So yeah, I thought this was done really well. And I'm finding, each week Roman Reigns is just as good as the last, if not better. I thought Paul Heyman was really good this week and last week too, just reactions, almost comedic reactions, because he does such a good job at not overacting, if that makes sense. You see a lot of other people, either they don't act enough or they're overacting. He reacts just like a normal person would if someone was speaking to you like this, and it's like all about believability. And I believe there's enough believability that Roman Reigns could pull some strings backstage, considering we have that whole idea of he was the guy for how long. So I've bought into this storyline. I believe in the story being told in front of me. It's not too hard to grasp, if that makes any sense.
That's such a rare find in professional wrestling across the board, any promotion, not just WWE, that you find a story you can sink your teeth into. It's easy to follow. I don't have to think too much. And when people hear me say that, they're thinking, you're insulting my intelligence of wrestling fans. But let me ask you, when you're watching TV, when you're watching a movie, generally, you don't want to have to think too hard of wait, what's going on? I'm confused. And you have to pause the movie and you have to, ask your significant other, wait, what the hell's going on here? There's none of that. It's very easy to follow, and any good storyline should be easy to follow. That's why we watch these entertainment programs, to immerse ourselves in something that is, I don't want to say brainless, because it's not, but something that's easy on the mind, that gets you away from reality. And that's what this storyline does. And I can't say that for everything else going on. Certainly not everything else is bad, but this one is at the top of the list, I think, for most fans. And I'm really with what Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman have done in their dynamic. I like that Roman Reigns almost never looks at Paul Heyman. The eye contact is almost never there. And when they have those backstage segments, Roman Reigns is always sitting in his leather chair, and he's not even looking at Paul Heyman when he's speaking. I mean, the disrespect for Paul, it's just oozing out of him. He's the biggest hypocrite. He's talking about how, he's always there. He makes every show, again, this is at the beginning of a SmackDown, and that, he could say, oh, my arm hurts, my back hurts, my knee hurts, but he's there every time. And it's really hypocritical. Of course, he missed a bunch of time during the pandemic, which he did address or breeze over a bit. And I just love what he's saying, because it makes you hate him in a way that makes him an actual heel, that, just like you said, it's not the air quote heels where you're on the heel side, on a piece of paper where, we have our heels and we have our baby faces, and here's our list of heels, but these really aren't, the heat generating heels. They're the entertaining heels, which I would argue, well, then you're a baby face, right? You can't be an entertaining heel. To me, there's no such thing, because you're either hated or you're not. So to your point too about Sami Zayn and Bayley, we'll get to them. They're the entertaining heels where you don't really hate them. But Roman Reigns is one of those very select few in the entire industry, and I'm talking AEW too, where you genuinely hate him, hate his character, because it's so damn believable that you're thinking, yeah, we know this is an act. We know that, he's turning it up for TV, but man, I bet you he's kind of really like this. I mean, we're thinking that. That's what makes it more real to us, that you want to see somebody like this taken down. And that's something I don't think most people are thinking about, to your point about satisfaction. That is something that very rarely do I feel in today's environment of heels getting what they deserve. Because we don't have true heels, which is why we're missing that feeling of satisfaction. And Roman Reigns has finally defined himself as a real heel over the last 5 months, and he continues to progress. And I'm loving it. You're loving it. I think most fans would agree that they love it as well. It's that feeling of genuine satisfaction when Roman Reigns gets what's coming to him. And now, not only are we satisfied with that, hitting 2 stunners, pop a powerbomb through the table, but now you wonder, oh my God, what is Roman going to do next week? What the hell is he going to do or say on the mic? And what is he going to want to do to Kevin Owens after this? Like, that's the other part of it is, oh my God, like Kevin Owens better watch out next week.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there was like a lot to break down in the whole thing. I think there was, with all the good though, the one thing I would say is in the opening segment you brought up, he was saying a lot of things that were true. I was almost scared that he was like, it almost sounded baby-face-ish for a hot second, but then of course, then he starts talking, and again, I hate him by the end of the promo again, so I was fine with that. But I mean, what he was saying wasn't anything that wasn't true, I felt, and what's it called? You made me think about MJF. You said across all brands. I know you're not a super avid AEW watcher, and
love
and
MJF, yes.
Yeah, more so. But I mean, even when of course, John Huber's passed away. He tweeted something along the lines about his son. Like, that is commitment to character. You know what I mean? He is the way he is on and off the screen. Even had Cameo for a hot second because I was curious to know what all the hype was about. And he was on Cameo. His whole thing is something about, this costs $300 because I know none of you, poor whatever SOBs would be able to afford it. He sticks to who he is on and off, when the camera's on or when the camera's off. So I don't like that. I believe that he is that person through and through because he has made it so I can believe that. And I feel like that's kind of what Roman Reigns has been able to do here too. Whether or not they show, the nice ads in between or on the WWE network of the leukemia stuff, I can kind of look past that because he's just so damn good.
Yeah, exactly. And that is, the whole leukemia stuff, and obviously there does kind of reach a point, especially in WWE, where, okay, children's cancer should obviously trump anything else going on in storyline or, breaking kayfabe, all that stuff. I mean, I understand that. I get that. But to your point about MJF, he's cut some promos that have gotten millions and millions of views. I remember his State of AEW or something like that when he called out Jon Moxley. That was one of the best promos I've seen in years, maybe up until CM Punk's pipe bomb in Vegas. My God, how many years ago now? But MJF is a guy he's almost the old school trying to resurrect true kayfabe guy in AEW. He's like single-handedly trying to resurrect it by not having anything break his character, even the death of a co-star, probably his friend in real life. But I remember on the tribute show where we had MJF taunting the child of John Huber, Brody Lee. And I'm like, oh my God, like this dude is completely dedicated. Nothing will break what he's done and or what he's on a mission to do. And it's just amazing, the commitment there. And nothing, I mean, if you have a star, a co-star, a friend backstage die, and you still don't, have break character, nothing else will. I mean, he is dedicated for life, and I really hope he is too. I appreciate that, because I'm sure that John, Brody Lee, Luke Harper would probably concur that, look, I think that's awesome that, you're not monetizing my death, but you're doing this in my honor of continuing with your character, that you're using this to kind of propel the company forward, and you're bringing in, people could look at it disrespectfully. I don't know. I could see it both ways, but anyway, we're talking about AEW. To kind of wrap up the whole Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens storyline right now, I mean, I know people are a little bit probably sick of it. I know that, once you get to that third match in a program, people are like, oh my God, okay, I'm kind of done with this. Let's move on. And I don't quite feel that way. I could probably go one more. I know they're not going to, but the matches that they've had have been so good that I'm okay with this continuing. Are you feeling a little bit of exhaustion yet from this program? Are you ready to move on yet?
I'm not gonna lie. I was when Adam Pearce, did his whole thing and said there was going to be a substitution, for lack of a better term. I was hoping Shinsuke Nakamura's music was going to hit. Not because I'm honestly not a giant Shinsuke fan, or at least what WWE has produced him as. I just don't get it. I don't get the hype as much as everybody else did. Probably because I haven't seen his other matches, but just because I felt like the story would have worked so much better with the whole gauntlet match, and I was sad they didn't go that way. But with that being said, I think I'm with you. I'm not so sick of it yet either, and I think the reason why is because they really added a new dimension to this whole thing. They could have just had Kevin Owens come out, fight Owens fight, never quit, like the whole thing over and over and over again, like shoved down our throats. But instead they did this weird, they like almost tricked us, and they did this weird Adam Pearce thing to get back to the Kevin Owens, like another Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match. But the build up and the way we got there was a little bit different than the last two times. I mean, the second time there wasn't even a build up, but you know what I mean? So they made it so we got there in a different way, so it wasn't the same old stuff that we've been seeing. Again, brawl at the end of the show goes off the air, repeat, wash, rinse, wash, repeat. You know what I mean?
And don't forget, we had the Kevin Owens in his car promo. I think that's where he was. He was sitting in his car and saying that he couldn't come to the building, or, you know, that he pulled some strings, Roman Reigns, that is, and he was not able to come to work tonight. And obviously he found his way into the arena. But he also gave us a little bit of depth into, you know, his tattoos, which I honestly don't even know the last time, with all the stars in the company that have so many tattoos, you know, you very rarely hear the meaning behind them. And to hear that meaning about, you know, his parents who are no longer here, and, you know, on his knuckles, you know, a reminder of never quitting, and, you know, all that. I think it added a little bit more sympathy to his character. Being a babyface, that's what you want. It added more relatability. Not that everybody's parents are dead, certainly, but we all have, in some way, fashion, or form, dealt with loss in our life, from friends, family, whatever, somebody you know. But it added that element of compassion. It added that, yeah, this guy is all about fighting and not quitting, but it added a little heart to the character, and not in a sappy kind of way, but it did, I think, add that next layer of Kevin Owens that I didn't even know I needed.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. And I don't know, as someone, I have a whole sleeve of tattoos and none of them mean anything. So as someone with that, you could almost, I think they could use this for a bunch of other people, even if they don't mean anything. I mean, sometimes someone will ask me, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean? I'm like, it doesn't mean anything. Every now and then when I'm bored, I'll come up with a random reason for why there's a boat on my arm or whatever. There's no meaning, but you could come up with anything for anything. And like you said, just make a reason for why we can relate to the character more. I think Kevin Owens doesn't even need to do it necessarily. I mean, just his build himself, you know, he's no Roman Reigns. He does not look like Roman Reigns when he comes out to the ring, but even just his appearance in itself, just like a Daniel Bryan, allows more relatability. I don't know about you. I know very few people in my life who look like a Samoan god, versus I know most people in my life look a little bit closer to like a Kevin Owens.
Exactly. And I think that is partly what has not just helped Kevin Owens, but Daniel Bryan. I mean, in his whole success story in 2014, 2015, at WrestleMania 30, we all know the story. Certainly that helped his character. Not only his likability on the mic, but in-ring, one of the best in-ring workers of all time. And then he looks like kind of the common guy. He's the ultimate underdog story of all time. And so I guess shifting to Daniel Bryan, he cut a promo this week that would make you maybe believe that Daniel Bryan could make some big noise in the Royal Rumble. I mean, very rarely do you have somebody come out and their sole purpose is to talk about the Royal Rumble, unless there's a reason behind it. And so do you think that based on the promo, of course that got interrupted, but we ended up seeing Daniel Bryan talk about what it meant to him and that he's never won a Royal Rumble match in his career. Do you think there's a possibility, and I'm not asking you to tip your hand yet because we'll get to our early picks, but do you think that this is a little bit of a sign here that perhaps Daniel Bryan has a chance at winning the Rumble?
Yeah, I won't give a spoiler, I guess, or I guess I kind of will, but I don't think Daniel Bryan's going to win this year, not because of what, you know, he came out and said, but more so it seems like, especially with the Cesaro loss and the Shinsuke Nakamura loss, it seems like, and all of the hanging out with Otis and Chad Gable and the Drew Gulak stuff, to me it seems like Daniel Bryan is in a part of his career where he is really kind of taking on, you know, an Undertaker status of trying to just give back and help elevate other talent. And he doesn't care if he takes a loss here or there and help elevate these guys that he thinks are really just genuinely good in the ring. So I can't imagine him being somebody who cares that he's going to go out and have never been a Royal Rumble winner or anything like that. I doubt that he cares if that's not on his belt of accolades. But he's definitely in the conversation. I know there's all those betting pools and stuff like that, and he's high up. It would be silly not to consider him a contender. I can't see it particularly. I can't see him as a person saying, I want to win this over, I would imagine he would say, that's a great idea, but why don't we go with this guy instead?
No, that's exactly right. I and not to tip my hand either, but I don't think it's a big secret that, yes, this is a sign that Daniel Bryan could win, and this is also a sign that WWE is trying to maybe throw us off, a scent of a trail that they don't want us on, so that they can surprise us with who's going to win. I mean, I think that Daniel Bryan could be maybe the final 5, final 6, maybe even final 4 in the Royal Rumble, and you think he could have an opportunity. I would be shocked if Daniel Bryan won, because just as you said, he's not the future anymore, and I hate saying that. It always feels like Daniel Bryan should still get that victory. It feels like he was kind of shafted, especially in, 2015 in Philadelphia. I always bring up that Royal Rumble because it was so infamous when Roman Reigns won. But there was, again, an opportunity there, and WWE never gave Daniel Bryan that opportunity to win the Royal Rumble, and for several reasons, of course, as we looked over the years. But I still don't think, this is 2021 now. I mean, we're fast forwarding 6 years past any possibility of, I think, Daniel Bryan winning. I would be shocked, given that it's about the future. And Daniel Bryan, I think, has a good run left in him, but I think it's just one good run. I don't think it's multi-year full-time status, especially as champion. And I'm a huge fan of Daniel Bryan. But like you said, with them kind of tipping their hand with the big losses to Shinsuke and the big loss to Cesaro, and I say big because Daniel Bryan as a babyface almost never loses clean to a heel. And they were positioned as heels at the time. And it was a big signal to me of, wow, they're really defining Daniel Bryan down now. And right now, Daniel Bryan doesn't seem to be, outside of this promo that could just be a red herring, just trying to get us off the trail. I don't think that there's a good opportunity. I mean, I'd give it like a 2%, 3% chance if I was a mathematician of, what the statistics would be, a statistician, if what, percentage-wise what he would win. I don't think there's an opportunity there. I just don't. I'd be shocked. But nonetheless, Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura have certainly been elevated over the last few weeks, with Cesaro getting another clean win over Dolph Ziggler. And, while that's not exactly, I don't think, career-defining, it's just a continuation of the winning for Cesaro, who actually got some mic time, too, this week. So what do you think about Cesaro, really, and Shinsuke Nakamura? I know they're a tag team that have essentially dissolved without really dissolving. Where do you think those two are at right now?
I love this promo. This is probably, one of my favorite parts about in all programs this week. I think it was really nice again to hear him on the mic, and I think Cesaro, I mean, he's no Paul Heyman or anything like that, but he can talk, and he's a smart guy, and whatever you heard him, he speaks like 5 languages. You'd think that they'd be using him for more, I don't know, just diplomatic purposes. But when he came out, I was excited it sounded like maybe it was scripted, but if it was, it sounded like he did a really good job of making it not sound unscripted. And I'm excited for Shinsuke and Cesaro. If I were WWE, I would put them in like some kind of, I don't know, the Royal Rumble is a perfect place to start feuds, right? So have Cesaro eliminate Shinsuke and start a feud based off that. Give me like a best out of 7, like they did with Sheamus, because they're going to do it anyways. They're going to have 14 matches or something if they do it, if they go down that road anyways, because every match is going to be, just as good as this, Dolph Ziggler Cesaro match was on SmackDown. So I would just call it like it is. Give them like a best out of 7 or something like that. Maybe have the blow off at WrestleMania. Give them a good amount of time on the card if they're doing it for 2 nights. I think, if you don't have Cesaro, which he's not going to happen, I think it would be great, but this would probably be the worst year with no fans. But if you're not going to have him win the Royal Rumble, put him in a program with Shinsuke. Use these 2 super talented guys as like a mid-card feud, no title involved, and then you filled 30 minutes of each of your SmackDowns every week, and then you've got a good match for a couple pay-per-views coming up. What do you think?
I think that if they don't do Shinsuke Nakamura versus Cesaro, they're missing the boat big time. I mean, how can they not have a good match? There's decades of experience between the two combined, and you know that they'd match up perfectly. And as they go on, the matches should, in theory, get better with more experience in the ring together. And they would really be missing out. I think they know that they would get great matches out of them, but it's not just about the great matches. Although WWE at times only looks at that and just throws storyline to the wind and goes, well, they'll just have a great match. They'll tell a story in the ring. We don't have to give any backstory, which I completely disagree with. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be certainly a long string of matches, or maybe they indeed keep them apart until after the Rumble. Maybe one of them eliminates the other from the Rumble, and that's what starts it between them, and then they start arguing the next week and the next week, and they start to, I don't know how they'd not fight until WrestleMania, but like you said, it could be a best of 7 that is the culmination at WrestleMania, which I don't know if they've ever done that before. They've done it on a pay-per-view, but I don't know about WrestleMania. But I think it could be done with these two. Certainly, they would have, at least on the card, you would look at that and go, that could be the match of the night. And there's no doubt about it. It could absolutely be. But to me, like you said, with Cesaro's promo, that may have been the longest they've allowed Cesaro to talk in years. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, this guy isn't, John Cena on the mic, but he's got way more than what you've been allowing him to do over the last several years of just kind of one-liners or weird, weird gimmicks. And like, it feels like he hasn't ever found himself. I think he'd even admit that. But this could finally be the Cesaro we've been waiting for, dare I say. But at the same time, on the flip side, with Shinsuke Nakamura, I think he is, ever since he beat AJ Styles, or lost to AJ Styles, I should say, at WrestleMania, and then he low-blowed AJ Styles after he shook his hand and all that, I think after that, he went really downhill big time. He was doing some kind of comedy heel stuff, saying, which I actually found really funny, which again makes him not a heel, is saying, no speak of English and all that stuff, which I was losing. I loved it. And then it went nowhere, and he just kind of fell into obscurity. And right now, he seems to be on the ascent. So these two are destined probably for WrestleMania. Would I like to see one of them win the Rumble? Yes, particularly Cesaro, if I was going to pick one, because we've already seen Shinsuke win. And Cesaro could be one of those dark horses, so to speak, in the Rumble. I think he'll make some big noise, too, but I don't think he'll win the Rumble. I don't see the build for it there, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this string of matches, like you said, probably culminating at WrestleMania.
Yeah, hope so. You know what I mean? I have little faith in the process, but I definitely I do have faith in the workers. And if these guys are given 5 minutes on SmackDown, just like I said, just like Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro did this week, if these guys are given 5 minutes, they will make the best out of 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And with Cesaro, like you said, with Dolph Ziggler, it's kind of like putting Cesaro with Shinsuke. It's going to be a really good match because it's Cesaro and it's Dolph Ziggler. I mean, what you're going to get with these two. And Cesaro beating Dolph Ziggler again, is that really the biggest thing he's ever done? No. Dolph Ziggler's made a career out of losing. I mean, that's just what Dolph Ziggler does, is lose. Generally. I know he's one half of the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Again, I understand that. But Dolph Ziggler has generally lost. Every time you think they're going to do something with him, it just get cut off at the pass. Dolph Ziggler loses, and goes back and, kind of pops in and out of like commentary. He does backstage stuff. I think he was involved at Raw Underground at one point. I mean, Dolph Ziggler's the jack of all trades. Anyway, moving on though, I want to talk a little bit more on SmackDown here. Sasha Banks versus Reginald. When they build this, I kind of knew what I was going to get, right? Like, this is the PG era, meaning that Reginald wasn't going to get any real offense in on Sasha Banks. I mean, with the PG era, that you're not going to get any man-on-woman violence. And I get that. It's PG, so they don't want to promote possibly, domestic violence, all that kind of stuff. And it would not look good on WWE to have a man beating on a woman. And I understand that image, the public image. But with Sasha Banks beating Reginald via submission with Carmella at ringside, I mean, Reginald, with all the things he can do, and he did some crazy flips and stuff, he can't handle a 130-pound woman. I mean, like, I don't know. I have no problem with Sasha Banks winning. I like Sasha Banks, but I don't know. I feel like I'm going to get myself in trouble talking about this because I feel like, oh, you want to see him beat up Sasha Banks? You're a man. No, but it's not really believable to me that Reginald, the guy that is that athletic and has probably trained, his entire life to be able to do what he does, and he can't handle Sasha Banks, who's a 130-pound woman. I don't know. What did you think about this?
No, I hear you. I think it's you got to tread lightly in these kind of things. And I, not to throw it back, but a couple months ago, I think I was watching some 2003 stuff or 2002, something like that. Pay-per-views from around that era. And I watched a match for the Cruiserweight Championship. It was Jackie versus Chavo Guerrero. I don't know if you remember that. And I watched not the original match, but the one where she was defending it and he had to have one arm tied behind his back or something like that. And I was uncomfortable, oddly enough. And Jackie is, to me, one of the most impressive women ever in WWE. I think she looked impressive. She was wrestling against men, right? And so, but I remember I felt uncomfortable. And I don't know if that's what I was made to feel or whatever. And I'm sure if I was watching it, but I would have been like 4 at that time. So I wouldn't have understood. But, if I was my age watching it back then, I probably would have had a different view just because it was different times. This, I think, was like a whole new, I don't think it's even fair to kind of compare to something like that. I thought, to give them credit, that they did do, a good job at making him at least look like he was trying to get some offensive moves on, and she was, reversing them. So, like, I know he tried to drop an elbow at one point. There were a couple other things. I mean, that little backflip he did, and he, like, slid right out of the ring. I think Michael Cole said something about, like, that was one of the most impressive things he's ever seen. It was entertaining to watch, and I think if it was any longer, I would be more down on this, but I think they gave it just enough amount of time to have this guy show off some fun stuff. It was entertaining, let me put it that way. It wasn't, I don't know how on a pro wrestling standard how I would rate it, but on just pure good television, I was entertained by the flips for a brief moment. Like I said, though, if it was any longer, I probably would have been annoyed. And I think Carmella was like the silent hero in this. I don't know if you noticed, like, they kept panning to her over at the announce table. Her reactions kind of made this whole thing like, oh crap, like if he's doing all this stuff and Sasha Banks is still kicking his butt, I'm screwed kind of thing. So whatever, it wasn't another title match on SmackDown. I'll take it. They did their best at making it not look like, I think they did their best making it look like he was actually trying to win the match, even though clearly, whatever, he didn't, like we said, get any offensive maneuvers. And I thought it was a great showing for Sasha Banks. There was some really cool reversal stuff in this. I think clearly he was able to be a better partner in the ring than I think a lot of the women would be, as in like holding her up and stuff like that. So I was entertained. I think, like I said, though, if it was a minute longer, I would have been down on this.
This was like, yeah, I mean, this wasn't bad. Like, I could rant on some things. I'm not going to rant about this because it just is in line with WWE's stance on intergender matches over the years since the PG era began, 13 years ago now. So I understand why they do what they do. This is not the worst thing WWE has done by a long shot. Like you said, Carmella's facial reactions did make the match. That's a good point. But this was exactly what it was billed to be. It was a wrestling match without being a wrestling match. Like, it was a gymnastics showing without actually any offense on his end. I mean, they did, like you said, they went to everything they could do on his end until they couldn't do anymore, and then have him lose, because otherwise he would have had to have done something. I mean, so yeah, he tried the elbow drop and all that. That was about the only attempt at an offensive maneuver. But it was just a gymnastics showing of a wrestling. It was a gymnastics version of a wrestling match with no offense, and that's exactly what this was. But yeah, Carmella, to get to an actual, match between Sasha Banks and Carmella, which is what they're building to here again. I think that Carmella's lost some steam, although her facials were really good. It feels as if she's kind of stagnant right now, not downward, just kind of there. And I miss her promos backstage. I think she needs to kind of get back on track to keep moving. I don't know why they've, I don't know, maybe I'm maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they haven't dropped the ball, but it feels like they're starting to drop the ball on Carmella and just kind of make her this generic, just arrogant heel who feels, that I'm above everyone. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's the foundation of a heel, but I need more from Carmella. I don't just need that generic, arrogant blonde. I need Carmella to be something more. I don't know what that is. I can't identify it because I don't know, maybe I'm not smart enough or haven't thought about it long enough. But I don't know. I feel like something else needs to push Carmella, to add something to her so she doesn't feel so generic at times.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like, we don't want Mandy Rose like 2.0. And we've talked about Carmella before. I'm high on Carmella. I think personally, this is the problem with their lack of long-term booking because, after this program, what is she going to do? Have another match with Sasha Banks? Or, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have a direction after Sasha Banks, and you can clearly tell that. And so sadly, it sounds like Carmella's not going to win, or if she doesn't win, she's just going to fall back in line to obscurity, really, and which is sad because I think Carmella is a lot better than than a lot of people give her credit for. I think the problem with this really, and why she might feel a little bit dull, is because you think about who's your dancing partner. Not to put this on Sasha Banks, but when you think about like a CM Punk and a John Cena, every time those two got in the ring, or whether it was to have a match or promos or whatever, you hung on to every word because they were both so good at bouncing off each other, like the contrast between characters, all that stuff. Or even Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. Like, you think about when's the last time Kevin Owens was relevant until he had Roman Reigns. You have someone like Carmella coming back who hasn't been relevant for a while because she hasn't been around. Her dancing partner is Sasha Banks, who I think is not doing a great job in her role. I like Sasha Banks. I think she's a way better heel than her position now. But if she doesn't really have much to bounce off of, if you don't have a good base to bounce off of, it's pretty hard to be a good heel, if that makes any sense. So the one thing I have to say is, as silly as the champagne thing is, at least she's got something. Like you said, at least she's a little bit above the generic heel blonde, I'm better than you. She's got something that's her thing, something you can put on a t-shirt, whatever. So I'd love, even if it's as simple as another thing on the same level of the champagne, give her something that's Carmella's thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, she does have, she's a step above the generic, but the generic is overwhelmingly there. Like, I mean, it's just as if she's relying too much on the generic of arrogant blonde heel, and I'm above everyone, my nose is in the air. And there's other elements. Yeah, she has Reginald. That's certainly differentiating. She has the champagne. She wears red. I understand all that. She does have elements that differentiate her, but I feel like there's something more that she needs, and maybe it's more mic time, right? Like, I don't think people realize how good she can be on the mic. And I think she's at times better than Sasha Banks on the mic, who I agree has done, and maybe this is just her natural personality, does not belong to be a babyface. Sasha Banks, with her arrogance, is the same person that she was with Bayley when they were on their 2-woman power trip over the summer. That she hasn't changed. She's still that same woman. So why am I supposed to cheer for her? No one has given me an answer because there hasn't been that turning point of Sasha. She just got turned on by Bayley and was dumb enough not to see it coming. So why am I supposed to feel bad for her? There never was that moment, that like come to Jesus, like skies opening up moment of, oh, I see the light now. There was never any of that. It was just the same Sasha continuing on and on and on. So I'm with you. I think Sasha should be heel, just like I think Charlotte should be heel. I think both are miscast right now. I do not like Sasha, or I'm sorry, I dislike even Charlotte more as a babyface than I do Sasha, but we'll get to her in a moment as well. So, wrapping this up, I think that there is more to be had with Carmella than meets the eye right now. And she's certainly a beautiful woman, on and on and on, but so is everyone else on the roster. That doesn't differentiate you. It comes down to just personality. It comes down to believability. It comes down to finding that it factor, and Carmella is scratching it. She's so close. I don't know what that next level is. Maybe it is more time on the mic, because she is really good on the mic, and I don't think people give her credit for it. So any final thoughts on Carmella and Sasha Banks and Reginald? No,
I'm with you. I agree 100%. I think, like you said, I think she is good in comparison to a lot of the other, especially the women on the mic. I don't think she's, again, we're not talking like John Cena level or anything like that, but she is able to take those scripted promos. She seems like someone who fits in the WWE process of being able to take those promos and make them sound as unscripted as possible. But I'm with you. I think she needs something. I'm really hoping she doesn't fall into obscurity. I would love her to be the women's champion, you know. I think that would allow her to even talk about having more mic time. You know what I mean? That she would be able to elevate that title. I think, you know, it's probably an unpopular opinion. I think she'd be able to elevate that title more than Sasha Banks is right now. I am more interested in the Bayley Bianca Belair feud than I am in this. I'm almost more interested in the Lacey Evans Ric Flair love story than I am.
You're setting the bar really low. I mean, it does feel boring with Sasha as champion, doesn't it? I mean, I know. It just feels boring. I don't know what it is, and maybe it is more of the thrill of the chase for babyfaces as part of it, not all of it, but part of it is the thrill of the chase, where you have a babyface chasing and chasing and chasing and not able to get it and finally overcoming. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't know. Sasha Banks as champion is just, it's kind of like, oh, okay, she's champion. It feels weird to say that because Sasha's a great talent, but maybe it's partly miscast, partly her being miscast as a heel or a babyface and she should be a heel, and partly a dancing partner. I don't know. But yeah, it feels a little bit stale, but it's not awful. It can be easily repaired. It just kind of feels like it's off the tracks a little bit for Sasha. But okay. Speaking, as I said, of Charlotte Flair, her and Asuka finally get back together after ignoring each other for a few weeks, and they defeat the Riott Squad via pinfall here. This, to me, now I know Billie Kay, who I'm a big fan of. I love Billie Kay. I know that there's people out there like, oh, she's so annoying, but she's adorably annoying. Like, you almost feel bad for her, and I said this last week that I look forward to her every week, and I didn't think I'd ever say that because I found her just kind of filler, and now I find her almost enjoyable because she's not really a heel anymore. She's transitioned to this kind of sympathetic loser that she's just trying to fit in somewhere. I'm enjoying Billie Kay like crazy, but I thought this was a missed opportunity for the Riott Squad to get a pinfall or to get a victory here because Asuka and Charlotte aren't going to be women's tag team champions for long, nor should they, especially getting into WrestleMania season. And maybe they're building to a split where it's Charlotte versus Asuka at WrestleMania, and they're waiting for them to drop the belts, and that's what will be the breaking point for these two, of which I don't even understand why they're together anyway. They're saying it's respect. I do not buy that at all. But I really thought it was a missed opportunity for the Riott Squad to get a big victory here. I was kind of disappointed that Charlotte and Asuka won because I think the Riott Squad would have been a great contender for a championship opportunity, and I think they're deserving. I think the Riott Squad should be holding the women's tag team championships. I don't think Flair and Asuka should have them, but again, it's all about the build to the split and the eventual match between those two. So anyway, what did you think about this match and the outcome?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think I've said before on the show that Charlotte is my favorite of all time ever, men, women, everything. I love Charlotte Flair, but like you said, I love her more as a heel than I think as a face, oddly enough. And I'm in the minority too of like when she won the Rumble and stuff, I was out of my seat cheering. I do. I think Charlotte Flair is deserving of everything she's got and more. I think she's probably, again, you could argue this, but probably wouldn't want to with me, the most athletic woman that they've ever had on the roster, and if not the best women's wrestler they've ever had on the roster, at least in WWE specifically, and maybe in all of wrestling. Again, you can get in that argument with me. I don't think you'd want to, but this match, I thought it was a lot better than anything that was going on Raw. I don't know if you noticed this. Even my girlfriend, or excuse me, my fiance noticed this too, watching it. And she was like, she looks a little bit slow in the match with Peyton Royce and even with Lacey Evans. Like, she looked a little bit off. And I think, everybody's entitled to a couple off matches, especially in a row. But it looks like she turned it right back up on this match. I think it's also partially who she's in the ring with. I love the Riott Squad. I think that Liv Morgan documentary gave a whole new dimension to her character, or just her as a person. I thought Ruby Riott sold that natural selection better than anybody I've seen do it. And I'm with you. I absolutely adore Billie Kay. I think the biggest crime of 2020 was the breakup of the Iconics. And you could try to argue with me about that. I don't think you'd want to. I think the Iconics are the tag team that could elevate these titles. I agree with you. I think it was a slight missed opportunity. I would have loved to actually see Billie Kay help them come away with the win, because I think you could have gotten away with that, even if it was a little heelish. She's so, like you said, cute and innocent in an annoying way that you probably could have gotten away with it. But I don't think I want the titles on these girls anytime, or these women anytime soon. I just think, not to go back on the Sasha Banks thing, but I'm scared that they would kind of go right back into irrelevancy on the Riott Squad. Not because the Riott Squad's bad or anything like that, but I think they are built for the thrill of the chase, not necessarily holding the titles for a long period of time, at least for now, and at least as faces. So I don't mind them not winning or having a number one contendership match or anything like that. I think my hope for this, and I don't think they're planning this, maybe this will happen just because WWE will finally open their ears and hear everybody. My hope is that this Billie Kay going into all these different tag teams and trying to be a part of all these groups will end up with her and like reuniting with Peyton Royce at WrestleMania and beating, or it doesn't have to be at WrestleMania, anywhere, beating whoever's the tag team champions at that point and reuniting. And those two women could elevate these belts, because they're so obnoxious when they're together in the best way possible. And then I'd love to see a Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott program with the Iconics. You could pull back all on this stuff of them, if you want to call it like bullying Billie Kay or any of that. I'm like long-term booking, but I don't want the titles on the Riott Squad. I think it would actually hurt them more than help them.
Well, a lot, yeah. You unpacked a lot, I gotta say. You took a lot out of that box there. So, number one, I would not disagree. I would argue on your side about the Iconics. I've been talking about that for months, about why the hell they decided to break them up, which never made any sense to me. They never got a fair shake. Yeah, they were the champions for the blink of an eye, but then they went into, hiding. I mean, they just went in a cave and hid, and we didn't hear from them or see from them. And they just kind of been on again, off again. And when they finally came back last year, I said, oh yeah, finally they're going to do something with them. And then they split them. I'm like, what? Why? In a tag team division that already needs help, you're going to take a legitimate tag team like this and break it up for what? They better have a good plan. And that plan turned out to be nothing for Billie Kay and Peyton Royce going off on a singles career that ended up back into a tag team. I mean, it was one of the weirdest decisions I've ever seen them make. This was not something I think they should have done. I think they probably recognize that, and I hope there is some kind of stipulation or something they can do. I mean, hell, they fire people all the time with stipulations, and they bring them back, in a few weeks. They can certainly find something to bring Peyton Royce and Billie Kay back. I think that's a great way to do it. I think the fans would love it. I think most fans are like, what? So what was the point of this again? What's the payoff? What's the, and there isn't one. But again, Billie Kay, she, like you said, she could have easily done something here to have these two win, have the Riott Squad win, but instead she keeps getting dejected by them. And I think she'll still try. I think every week from now until who knows, that she'll still try to fit in and wear her punk outfits and all that, and try to listen to Blink 182 as she said last week, which made me laugh. All these things, she's becoming a lovable loser that's going to turn into fan support. She's already turned babyface. I mean, like, the way that the fans feel about her now, I think she's immediately babyface already. So, but talking about Charlotte Flair and Asuka, the other thing about Charlotte Flair being the most athletic and she does deserve to be where she is, I wouldn't have said that up until the last couple of years. And I think the stigma of Ric Flair being over her took a while to kind of shed. And it took a while to kind of make her own path and be her own woman, her own, successful star. But she has done that. She's already done that. She, people say, oh, she's only there because of Ric Flair, and no, she doesn't deserve. I'd be like, well, wait a minute. Yes, Ric Flair certainly got her in the door. There's no question about that. He got her in the door, and he was able to get her a mile ahead of an opportunity, just an opportunity to go into WWE. That is undisputed, and there's no question that she had the right connection. However, to stand there and to be able to kick the door in, to be able to stay there as long as she has, to see the level of success that she has, to main event WrestleMania, albeit a very forced triple threat that I still don't agree with. I know that maybe you don't, but I still believe that year in 35 should have been Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, period. I don't agree with Charlotte, but they did it just so they can say Charlotte was in the main event. I will argue that to the death, although, again, it wasn't a bad match. But Charlotte Flair's career is deserving of the hard work that she put in, not Ric Flair. Ric Flair did not have anything to do with, after he gave her the opportunity, what she did with it. So she is deserving of it. I know that many fans get angry that every time she comes back, she holds a championship. And yeah, seeing her as champion at times can get a little bit redundant, just as it does with anybody with a championship for long enough. And every time they come back, they hold a belt. It can get a little resentful and annoying and exhausting, and I understand that. But Charlotte Flair, I think, is actually right now dealing with the whole Ric Flair coming back and turning heel, and dealing with Lacey Evans, and he takes her back to his hotel room or whatever Ric Flair does. I think is actually taking away from the focus of Charlotte, which is what it should be on. I don't like the fact that Ric is back. I know that's Ric Flair; he's a legend, but the downside, a big downside, is Charlotte's doing her own thing. She doesn't need Ric around anymore. Ric needs her. So I don't believe that having Ric on TV is benefiting Charlotte in any way. It's taking the focus away from Charlotte, and it's the reminder again, oh yeah, that's Ric Flair's daughter, when I know it's really that's Charlotte Flair's father, right? Like, so I don't know, lot there, but those are my thoughts.
No, we could do an entire podcast on Charlotte.
Yes.
I'm sure, but no, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I'm obviously on the younger side of the WWE audience. So, but to me, Ric Flair is Charlotte's dad almost. I mean, I guess I wouldn't go that far, but to me, they are separate entities. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. I think it takes away a little bit. I think that Charlotte Flair always looks great with the title. I think, good, you're annoyed she has a title, so you want someone to beat her, and take it away from her. And about the triple threat match, again, we could probably have a whole podcast on just that. I think, yeah, maybe there's an argument for sure that she shouldn't have been in it. But now you look at, what about a dream match, just a singles match between Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, because the way that weird, roll-up ending was, there's a whole, if Ronda Rousey ever came back, you got a whole nother program there without Charlotte. So I get it. I hear you. I think there's an argument both ways. But to me, again, there's nobody who you could put her, plug her player anywhere. Even this Lacey Evans weird story, I can't stand Lacey Evans. I think she needs so much work done in the ring. And if you have someone like a Billie Kay, who needs a lot of work done in the ring, but she's as good on the mic as she is, fine. Or you have Reginald on your TV who clearly can't wrestle yet, but has all these gymnastic moves, fine. You've got someone like Lacey Evans, who to me is cringeworthy on the mic and cringeworthy in the ring. I don't know why she's on, I don't know why she's on TV yet. I think she has a lot more work to do. But I think even with this weird story, I think Charlotte makes the best of it. Some people think, oh, her mic skills aren't that great or whatever. I don't know. How would you react if your father of 7-year-old is supposedly sleeping with your father of 7 years old, supposedly sleeping with someone you work with, uncomfortable, weird. I don't think I think she's doing great with what she's got, I guess is my point. And I could be a little bit biased, I know, but I 9 times out of 10 enjoy whatever she's doing. So you could kind of put Charlotte Flair in any program, and I'm mildly interested, at least. So, but like I said, with that being said, they're trying with that Lacey Evans thing. I can give them that. They are trying to make a program with the women that doesn't revolve around the title. I think we've talked about it before. I've been asking for that for a while. Give me a program in the women's division that doesn't revolve around the title, please. This is what they gave us. It's not great, but it is something, and it's not something I really want to sink my teeth into, but it's something. And so the fact that we have to say that about like $1 million company is kind of sad, but whatever. Like I said, it's something.
Yeah, I've seen worse. But every time I see Ric Flair out there, I don't know what the payoff is. I don't know how you can have a payoff. You can't have Ric Flair in the ring, and you certainly can't have him face his own daughter. So I guess that'll just be Lacey Evans by default. And I don't really care that Ric Flair's sleeping with Lacey Evans. I mean, Ric Flair's made a career out of sleeping with women. That's what he does. That's Ric Flair. Okay, great. Like, why am I supposed to care about this? Why am I supposed to care that Ric Flair is, again, in kayfabe, having intimate relations with Lacey Evans? I don't care. I don't care about that. I don't care that he turned heel at 74 years old. I don't care that Ric Flair turned heel. To me, this is a distraction from Charlotte Flair and Asuka and the tag team division and the Raw Women's Championship, which has all been but forgotten, which is crazy that the Raw Women's Championship has been, I can't even remember the last time it's been defended. Maybe against Lana? I don't even know. So this is certainly a distraction, one that has no good payoff, because you can't end up with a match with Rick. He can't even take a bump. There's nothing you can do with Ric Flair. He should stay a legend. He should make appearances, come out whenever Charlotte has a big moment. He wants to hug his daughter and cry and all that, fine. But Ric Flair doesn't need to be on my TV screen at 74, it might be 74 years old, and taking up TV time. I don't understand it. I respect Ric Flair. I think that he's still got, some promo ability left in him, but I don't need him in an actual story where there's no payoff to him being in a match at all. I mean, it's not going to happen. So all right. Well, but on to Raw a little bit. I want to touch on Raw. There are SmackDown things that of course I want to discuss, but with Raw, the main event of Raw was Asuka versus Alexa Bliss. And we didn't get the return of the Fiend, but what we did get was a very scared Asuka, and I have mixed feelings on that. And we got Alexa Bliss in this non-live format, able to transform into this darker character. I want to see how they do that when they're in front of a live crowd. But I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the transformation that she can become this, I don't know if it's Sister Abigail or whatever. She's just this kind of demonic version of herself, darker version of herself. And then there's this kind of slightly evil but creepy, happy-go-lucky version of the Alexa's Playground version of herself. And so, first of all, I don't think the last time I can't even remember the last time Asuka got dominated like this, in maybe since her entire WWE career, at least on the main roster. And I can't remember the last time I've been more invested in Alexa Bliss on top of it. And, so the last thing I'll say, and then I'll toss it to you, is I have mixed feelings about Asuka being scared. At first, I was kind of like, oh, here we go with the cartoonish, Asuka who overacts everything. And I don't know if that's just part of what she does to be endearing, but Asuka just is an over actress at heart. But she was scared of Alexa, and I was kind of annoyed by that at first. Like, oh my God, why is she scared of Alexa Bliss? Asuka's been through, hundreds or maybe thousands of matches. She had how many hundreds or over 100 match win streak, whatever it was, and she's scared of Alexa Bliss. I mean, this 5 foot nothing, 110 pound individual. And then I thought more about it. I'm like, okay, maybe this is plausible that she's actually scared and showing a little bit of fear because she's tied to the Fiend. And look what she did to Randy Orton the week before, basically, trying to blind him with fire. And she is attached to the Fiend. So, with all that said, I could understand a little bit of fear in Asuka. So that's how I absolve myself from getting just super annoyed by that. But I thought it was a good main event. It was it added another layer to Alexa, who I think is just exploding right now, and it ultimately, of course, is going to lead to the return of the Fiend. So, what did you think about this?
Yeah, I agree with you. I understand. I think the fundamental problem of this is Asuka should not be in this program. And, if it's going towards a Raw Women's Championship match, maybe. But I mean, I think Asuka was not your pick for this. I think you want to make your champion look a certain way, not scared. Also, Asuka's little comedic cuteness is great in spurts, but it just didn't fit. I think I had very different feelings on the Playground segment than I did on the actual match. The Playground thing, I hated it. It was weird, uncomfortable, awkward. I had secondhand embarrassment while I was watching it. I was like, what am I watching right now? Again, I think Asuka, similar to Drew McIntyre, I said this on my podcast, I said Asuka, similar to Drew McIntyre, is good when they are serious in the ring and they have their cute little quirky moments here and there, like a wink and a nod, whatever. Very different styles of doing that, obviously, but, when you have it in small doses and then most of the time you have them being your serious champions, it works. When you have Asuka turning on her theme music and dancing in the middle of the Playground, it was weird. And I think, like you said, I understand why Asuka would be scared. I think anybody in their right mind would be scared of somebody who can firebend, apparently. But it just didn't fit for me. But with that being said, I thought the match was awesome, specifically for the reason, I guess, that the thing I don't love about the Fiend is the no-sell thing, because I almost feel like it bleeds into other areas of other wrestlers. Like, I don't know if it probably didn't start with the Fiend, but it's been going on for a while. But just the no-selling thing, I can't get behind. I understand you can have like a split personality maybe, and like you're making me think too much, I guess. WWE's making me think too much. Alexa Bliss still sold the stuff that Asuka was doing. She was just all of a sudden became this like jujitsu warrior and like could dodge stuff. And like that right hand, I think she threw at Asuka. I had to go back and rewatch that. It was like I was blown away by how well. I mean, these are two class women. I think these are two women who deserve to be discussed in the same vein as the four horsewomen, Asuka and Alexa Bliss, both awesome. So whatever, they made the best out of what this was. I'm with you. I feel like I'm in the gray area of this, which is probably the minority, because I think some people love it and I think some people hate it. Some people don't think it belongs on a pro wrestling show, and some people think it's a whole great new dynamic. I'm in the gray area just because I'm trying to. I think they're making me try to believe in too much here, but I also think Alexa Bliss is doing a great job with what they're giving her. So I feel a little bit, back and forth. So I love the match. I hated the playground thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was specifically talking about the match that I think was well done for what they were trying to accomplish, which was get Alexa Bliss over as this next layer of her personality and abilities of being essentially just kind of summon the Fiend into her spirit and become this darker version of herself, which is, again, the plausibility of this is just absolutely absurd. And it is bordering on a little bit of just, okay, like, I know this is wrestling, but this is just too much. She comes close. I think the Fiend blows that out of the water, where the Fiend being lit on fire, and then, where do you go from here? The Fiend's character is completely absurd. I mean, I'm not saying I hate it. It's certainly engaging, and I watch. But after you light a guy on fire, where do you go? Like, that's where Randy Orton did. I mean, so you're going to have a match with him at some point down the line at Roadblock or whatever pay-per-view comes after the Rumble? I don't know. Like, what do you do? If this guy can't be put down by being lit on fire, why would you think a wrestling move is going to do anything? I mean, we've seen the disaster of a Seth Rollins. We've seen, Goldberg apparently has the antidote. Apparently Goldberg has the kryptonite of whatever the Fiend can't handle, but we all forget that. And he has no sold finisher after finisher after finisher. And I think it's damaging to the product when he does that, where it's constant no selling. It's damaging and exposing the whole industry, I think, especially the WWE version of the industry. And it's just, it becomes a little too much. And I don't know what the Fiend's going to look like when he comes back. But again, you've booked yourself into a corner by lighting somebody on fire. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Beyond literally, and they're never going to do this, and I would never advocate for it, but you've actually booked it to where you lit a guy on fire. The next step is bringing a gun and pulling the trigger on the guy's head, because you've gone as far as you can go. Of course, they're not going to do that, and they'll bring it back to a match. But I don't know. It's getting a little absurd, and they're not going to go anywhere with it. I think most fans would agree it's just insanely unplausible, but they're continuing to watch. I'm in that category. But to Alexa Bliss's credit, she has done just an amazing job with what she's been given. She has been really the conduit for the Fiend's character, allowing him to live on TV for all these weeks without actually having to show up. And it does add a little bit more importance to when the Fiend shows up instead of just every week. So yeah, I think this is good for Alexa's career, regardless of the insane plausibility of this. But it does lend itself to complete just disconnect from the product once the Fiend comes back of, okay, you got lit on fire. Like, where the hell do we go from here?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think in transitioning kind of into that thing, the Randy Orton luchador transition, that started the show too. I think where they go from here is, I know you're going to cringe when I say it, but is a Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania or at the Royal Rumble or something, something cinematic, something some people are going to hate, some people are going to love, and then I think you take Randy Orton off TV, and for a while. I mean, he's been on every show for the week for a while now. I think you just give him some time off and have him come back, and hopefully, as WWE would expect us to, we'd all just forget about all that. And I don't know where you go with the Fiend personally. Like I said, I think you put it perfectly. They kind of booked themselves into a corner. I think it exposes the business. I mean, it's just you. If you're going to do this, if they insist on doing this, I would say that they do something like they did with The Undertaker and Kane, and you kind of keep it away from all championships, away from all that other stuff, and you keep it a separate entity of the show, and almost, it's almost like a I don't know, intermission or break from your pro wrestling program. You get to watch, your episode of Supernatural or whatever, and then you come back. Because otherwise, I mean, when they start to get in the title picture, like Randy Orton was talking about how the Fiend wants him to, not be able to make it to the Royal Rumble and win and go on to WrestleMania. Like, the Fiend doesn't care. I don't think the Fiend should care about your WrestleMania aspirations, Randy. Like, I think it should probably just be separate from all titles and all that stuff and just have it its own thing, because like you said, it's just, I can't get myself to suspend my disbelief to the point, again, of fireballs. And I mean, there was certainly a headline when, the Fiend was lit on fire. I got texts from people who have never watched wrestling or haven't watched wrestling in a while asking me, oh, what'd you think? So it certainly at least did what it was supposed to do. But again, this is that thing with the lack of long-term booking. I don't think they know where they go from here. I honestly don't think they have a plan. And if they do, I am nervous to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and I'll get to the Rumble in a few minutes about maybe who you think could win. Every week that goes by with, I'm like, oh, this person's probably going to win, or this person. I end up going, I end up changing my mind because, and that's not a bad thing, because I don't want to know forthright, who's going to win. I don't want to know immediately it's destined to be this person. So I think they are doing a good job, maybe not even intentionally, maybe just by their own lack of ability to tell good stories. Are they keeping me guessing? I don't think maybe that's by design. I think that could just be by accident. So, nonetheless, though, I do want to move on from one train wreck to another, and that is the Miz and Morrison and Gilbert and the impersonating Drew McIntyre and the dirt sheet. I mean, I will say this, and I will be consistent with my Raw review, that I don't mind Gilbert for what he's meant to be. I will say Gilbert was probably the highlight of this, and that's not saying much. But Gilbert to me is at least tolerable, where the guy's all in, and it's absurd that this 140-pound man who's probably 55 years old at this point impersonating Goldberg at this point in his career. He's been doing it for like 20 years. I feel like, maybe since the Attitude Era. I think he even came in and they imitated Goldberg with Gilbert. And so I will say that his facial expressions and things like that made me chuckle a little bit because of how just obscene this guy is. But then they, of course, bring out the impersonating Drew McIntyre guy, and it wasn't good. They went and broke the fourth wall for no reason about, wait, what am I supposed to say? What's in the script? And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. No, I know that they're actually in a script saying that they shouldn't talk about the script. But I'm like, this is too deep right now. This is weird. I don't need you guys talking about a script, because this is actually in the script. It's like 2 layers of scripts. So it was not good. Anything dirt sheet, anything Miz TV, I have been absolutely completely turned off. I am a huge non-proponent of these two even being on TV, and I don't mean that in a good heel heat way or it's really heel heat if you want to see them get beat up. I don't want to see them get beat up. I don't care if they get beat up. I just don't want them on my screen. That is a complete lack of investment in their character. That's channel changing, and I don't want to hear from anybody that's, oh no, you still hate them. That's heel heat. It's not. It makes me want to watch something else. That's not heel heat. That's, like you put it, it's secondhand embarrassment with these two on a weekly basis. Secondhand embarrassment with these two. It's been in this way for many, many months. I do not want Miz or Morrison in their current iterations of characters on my screen at all. I feel embarrassed to watch WWE when I see these two. I will stand by that. And this week was no different. It was just a way to keep Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre in the minds of fans. So, I guess twofold question. What did you think about this segment? And what do you think about McIntyre versus Goldberg in a week?
Yeah, all I can tell you is I was more delighted to see Gilbert than I was Goldberg. You know, that was the one kind of pop I got from this. I don't even have the energy to give you any analysis on this. I'm with you. I agree. I could tell you the same thing next week probably, because the same thing is going to happen next week. No new news from Miz and Morrison aren't changing. Any analysis wouldn't change about them either. I think it's so sad because I am probably, again, in the minority. If I could be a proponent for The Miz, I think The Miz is good when he's used rightly, which he rarely is. And I think John Morrison is like a Dolph Ziggler, but I think could probably even do more spectacular things in the ring. I think he sells like Dolph Ziggler, though. I think, again, these two guys could be doing some great stuff. I'm hoping that they're going to have some kind of turn on each other. You know, I think we talked about it last time, or maybe there's some cash in. Morrison, screws it up. I don't care. Just have these two not together anymore, and maybe it'll be a little more tolerable. But that's about all I got on them. And in regards to Drew McIntyre and Goldberg, I think the only thing I could say that's good about this is I'll tell you, when the match comes on, I won't be on my phone because I know the match will be so short that I don't want to blink and miss it. And so that's one pro, I guess, right? They'll have my eyes. But again, it's hot shotting. Where do you go from this? If Goldberg wins, they're super lucky to not have fans in the building. I think Goldberg would play the heel. I think it would be, I think you would get as much a loud reaction and boos as you would, when Brock Lesnar and Goldberg faced off first at WrestleMania, whatever it was. I don't know. All I could tell you is John Cena won his first championship at WrestleMania. I don't remember which one it was. 23, maybe earlier. 20. Let's go 20.
I think it was 21.
21. Okay, I was close. Like that kind of reaction of just boos and get off my TV, get out of my ring. Like Goldberg was good for what he was. I think you'd same kind of thing with Ric Flair. Have him come back and say a thing or two, or put him in a squash match with The Miz and Morrison. I'd like to see that. 2 minutes on WrestleMania. Spear, jackhammer, move on kind of thing. Like that's about all he's good for. I don't want him the champion. I think Drew McIntyre has done way better than people are giving him credit for. I don't think it's easy to be the top guy. I don't think it's easy to be I think it is harder to be the top guy as a face than it would be a heel. And so I am in hopes that Goldberg doesn't win. I think he's going to win, sadly, because this show has had its worst ratings of all time. And when they bring these legends back, apparently the ratings go up. So Vince McMahon puts those 2 and 2 together and says, well, let's make him our champion.
Yeah, that's the sad thing is, and I don't know how many more times Vince can go to the well here. And Goldberg's not even a WWE staple. He's a WCW staple. He's not a Raw WWE legend. He's not. Goldberg is not a WWE legend. They can put him in the Hall of Fame, but it's not a WWE Hall of Fame. I don't think it should be. He should be in a WCW Hall of Fame if such thing ever existed. But I don't know what keeps bringing Goldberg back other than Vince McMahon thinking it's a needle mover. And even if it is on a small scale, it's not a long-term fix. It's not something that, is going to keep fans around. It's just, Goldberg's back. Let's see who he's facing and who he's going to spear. Okay, we're done with that. I'm going to go back to whatever I was watching before. It's not a talent building solution. It's not a long-term talent building solution. It's hot-shotting. It's very short-sighted. I think, creates a lot of resentment in the eyes of fans, and true resentment, real resentment for the men and women in the back who are like, hey, can we stop with this legend crap? Can we stop with the legends coming back and immediately grabbing the championships the second they get back? Can we please stop with that? And I don't think that this is a good solution at all for any reason whatsoever. It's bad booking in terms of casting Goldberg as a babyface versus babyface. I think this is truly heel versus babyface. If this was in an arena, I really, really, really wish this was in an arena, and maybe at WrestleMania 37 this year, when fans are apparently going to be there. Apparently they're trying to shoot for 25,000 people in the Raymond James Stadium, which would be freaking awesome. That if Goldberg is going to be out there, that the fans finally get a true voice at WrestleMania, which, again, this is what they're hoping for. This is what Triple H said on, I think it was the Michael Kay show, said that this is what we're aiming for last week when he was on, of fans in the arena, that they give WWE a taste of what they have had coming for almost a year. Will be a year at that point, of this is what we really feel about the product. This is, no longer can they pipe in noise. No longer can they just push a button and play God with fans' reactions. They're going to get a really, I think, a shock and awe to their system when Goldberg gets booed out of the freaking building by whoever he's facing. Let's be honest. Goldberg is here from now till Mania. There's no getting around it. If people think he's here for the Rumble and gone, I mean, you just haven't been watching wrestling for long. So I think you're right. I don't think it's a secret that I have believed, as you do, that Goldberg is going to become WWE champion at Royal Rumble. And I continue to believe that every week, and I want to not believe it because I don't want to believe it. But if the fans were there, the fans would tear this guy apart, and I don't think there's any way around it. And I'm very curious to hear what noise they pipe in for Goldberg during the match. I think it's going to be just cheers. I don't think there'll be any boos during this match. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're going to get it all wrong again, and I hope Goldberg does get to WrestleMania, and if he is the champion finally, and I would love to hear if they have live fans there that get a real reaction. And I don't know, maybe I might be, getting into the analytics of the whole thing, but I have a feeling almost everybody's going to get cheered, first few live events back, just because everybody will be so excited to be there. But I don't think this match will get long enough for them to have a chance to, die down out of the excitement and really show how you're feeling. Like, I think you're going to have Roman Reigns cheers, all that stuff, just until we get back to normal of getting used to being able to go and have live fans in attendance and stuff. That's just, to me, my personal opinion of what might happen. But either way, I'm with you. I think Goldberg's going to get cheers. And whatever, speaking of this Miz and Morrison segment too, I cut this out of Raw for me and give me whatever the 5, 10, 15 minutes it had and give it to the Ricochet AJ Styles match. Cut any Goldberg stuff out, all these, this legend stuff out, Ric Flair, and put all that time into the one, in my opinion, one really good match on the 3-hour wrestling show, and give it to AJ Styles and Ricochet, who had only like 5 minutes, if not less, to work with, and put on, to me, the one part of Raw I was actually enjoying watching.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. That was a match. I mean, you knew what you were going to get going in. You knew that this could be really good, and it was everything that you were hoping. And of course, the time that they were given could have been longer, and I would like to see them in like a 15, 20-minute match. That could be, just awesome. And it also reminds you of how good not just Ricochet is. Ricochet, of course, we all know he's one of the most athletic guys on the entire roster. We know he's A+ in the ring in terms of athleticism and crazy moves and 450s, flat splashes, and reversals and everything else. But you also got a reminder of how good AJ Styles is in terms of timing. Yes, he can't match the athleticism of Ricochet, who's like 20 years his younger, of course. But you are just reminded of how good of a professional AJ Styles is in the ring, how well he calls the match, how well he executes when he needs to, and of course we'll all remember that what was it, kind of a rebound off the ropes into the Styles Clash that they did. I mean, my God, it was it's outstanding, and I'm sure that WWE is looking at, given the amazing positive reviews from this, that they're looking at possibly doing another one. I would hope maybe they'll do that this week on Raw. Who knows? But I'm with you. This, out of all the negative we just talked about, this was a breath of fresh air with these two. I would love to see them, and I'd watch them in a 60-minute Iron Man match, for God's sakes. This was great.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, especially with, I think, Amos, too. I thought that was so funny that the ref was telling him, drop him, and he just, that sound Ricochet made when he hit the mat sounded louder than I would have expected. Again, like you said, I thought it was so funny, right? The finish was the Ricochet off the ropes. And like I said, this was the one thing I loved about Raw this week. Though I want to transition because I don't want to miss it, and I really wanted to discuss this with you because I have a feeling what your opinions are about it, and I think mine actually might differ. So I want to ask you about the Bayley and Bianca Belair obstacle course challenge. And I know we're going a little bit into last week too, but I'm curious to hear what you thought about the Ding Dong Hello talk show.
You're hurting my soul. Okay, so here's what I think about with the Ding Dong. I'll go in sequential order here. The Ding Dong, hello. I think WWE has a fetish for talk shows. I think for whatever reason, they just, every time they see potential for a talk show, they put it on that person. KO show, right? Jericho had his own show. Carlito's Cabana back in the early 2000s. Of course, Piper's Pit, the original. We had the Cutting Edge with Edge, of course. We have Bayley's now Ding Dong Hello. I mean, we have the Dirt Sheet. Miz actually has two shows, Dirt Sheet and Miz TV. I mean, there has been so many talk shows. We got the MVP Lounge or whatever with MVP, whenever that happens, which hasn't happened very much lately, but there are just, I think it's oversaturation. I don't need more talk shows, but WWE loves them because they're like, oh, this is the entertaining part of our show, right? This is the entertainment. This is the something for everyone, which to me, when you're serving multiple people, you're serving no one, but that's just my thought. So I think that this is just another talk show that is a platform that they can use to bring on anybody. It's, to me, lazy booking in a way, because it's just, they don't know how to get stars over in the traditional sense, so they do these entertainment bits that I think actually draws back from progressing that character forward, and I think Bayley doesn't need a talk show. Unfortunately, the ratings are against me on this one. It was one of the highest rated segments of the show, maybe out of curiosity, maybe because it was new, but I mean, if I'm in the minority, cool. I just don't like talk shows in general, and really mostly because not only does it take away from the wrestler themselves usually, but it also is, it's just overdone. So those are my two reasons against it. But what they did on last week, again, I know we're talking this week, but I'll get there. Last week what they did was setting up this obstacle course, maybe have really bad flashbacks to the NXT early days when they would have like Titus O'Neil carry around a keg and trip and fall over himself, or Miz was Daniel Bryan's pro, or like all these things that were just really bad times for WWE, especially NXT in its early days, and embarrassing. So we have, of course, this setup to the all-important obstacle course that we have to run, and Bayley gets out there and she runs the course kind of half-heartedly and just does things, obviously just running around the obstacles rather than going over them, taking the easy way out, playing the heel. Carries, what's his name? Not Otis, because that's who she had, but why can't I remember his name? I can't remember his name. Yeah, Chad Gable. Chad Gable. That's she carries him over, slams the basketball in, or does a layup, and she gets 1 minute and 11 seconds or whatever the heck it was. And then Bianca Belair, they're showing how athletic she is, her track background, and that's great. I think Bianca Belair is, I mean, we all know how athletic she is. I mean, there's no doubt. She's amazing, strong, super strong too. And they showed that off. So she plays the obstacle course the way that it should have been, and she goes over the obstacles, and she carries Otis, who came from under the ring, and that was impressive, of course, given Otis is pushing 300, well, I'd say probably 270, 280, and she slams the basketball in and ends up beating Bayley anyway. Now, before Bayley beat her down, I said, oh my god, like this is the kind of crap that makes me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. Like, if I was trying to get somebody into wrestling and they were in the room with me, I would have them, just turn away from the TV for the next few minutes, because I don't want you to watch this stuff. This is this is not what wrestling is. It's just the silly attempt at comedy during your show. This is a comedic break. And I don't think Bayley, given everything she's done over the summer, how awesome she was as a heel, she was at the top of the mountain, and they have her doing obstacle courses. They have her doing effing obstacle courses. Like, how big of a fall from grace is that, right? So I hated that. I know it was all meant to just show off Bianca Belair's athleticism and strength, but we already knew that. We already knew how awesome and good she was in the ring. We knew this. So to me, this is retracted from everyone involved, except for the fact that Bayley at least got a little heat for beating down Bianca Belair and showing she's a sore loser. So there was that barely saving grace, which, again, if you want to, I mean, I'd give this segment like a D- if I was going to grade it. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I was, and I had a feeling that's how you were going to feel, just because I know I think we've talked about certain things like this before in the past too, and normally I'd agree in a lot of things. I thought personally, just to talk about that last week, the talk show, I'm with you. I think there are way too many talk shows. I'm thinking about like you said, Jericho had one. There were how many times has someone gone through a TV or through a table or something on one of those talk shows, and you always know how it's like a contract signing. You know how it's going to end. And I think, though, if you're going to give anybody a talk show, I'm fine with Bayley having one. I know they're going to drive this ding-dong hello thing into the ground, but I think Bayley is great, and she's so grown into this character on the mic, and it gives her an ability to show how much she's grown into that character. I thought this first rendition of the talk show, though, was terrible. It was awkward. Bianca Belair should never have a microphone in her hand unless she's going to, I mean, I don't know if she didn't go to promo class or something. She just made it awkward, or if she went off script or whatever went on, that was terrible to me. But this week, I have to say, we talked about the Charlotte Flair thing a little bit. I'm happy that they are giving the women feuds that don't revolve around the title. And if this feud revolves around Bayley being upset, because Bianca Belair is more athletic than her, I know Bayley's got some, basketball background and yada, yada, yada. So obviously is way more athletic than she was acting because she's playing the character. But if this is giving that's kind of what they're fighting about, fine. It's a program. It's better than Lacey Evans and Ric Flair. But I love this. And I know it has nothing I normally wouldn't, I guess, because I hated those cinematic things between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. I thought most of that was silly. I would give like the Law and Otis about a C+, really only because I thought Asuka was hilarious and I got to see Teddy Long. But this was probably the most entertaining non-wrestling segment on a wrestling show I've seen in a while. I thought watching Bianca Belair do her thing was incredible. We knew she was athletic, but still, just to see someone do the stuff that she does is a spectacle. And I think Bayley's ankles or something was trending on Twitter or somewhere. I thought that was funny. So I love this segment. I have to say, again, I'm with you. I don't think it belongs on a pro wrestling show, but you want to talk about sports entertainment or whatever, fine, I can deal with this. If this is what they're going to give me for the entertainment, quote unquote, segment, I'll take it. But I think if you put any two other people in this segment, I would have hated it. I just thought, and the ending, especially like you talked about, I got flashbacks from like middle school, playground recess, getting the basketball chucked into your stomach. I like outwardly groaned. I like made the oof noise because I know what that feels like. You can't fake that, and you could see Bianca Belair be like, Jesus, Bayley, not that hard. Like that looked like it really hurt, getting the wind knocked out of you like that. So if this is leading to a real match, I wish they didn't have the match beforehand. That's a whole nother WWE problem. I mean, like, you already have the blow-off. They've already fought once or twice, I think, at this point. Like, I would love to be more excited for the match if I haven't seen it once or twice already. But, again, all that being gone, they're giving the women a chance to shine. I love these two women. I think Bianca Belair needs a mouthpiece. I mean, give her Billie Kay. Or, if they come to their senses and hire back Zelina Vega, that would be incredible. I think that pairing would be awesome. I just think Bianca Belair doing her athletic thing is way better than putting a mic in her hand. So I love this, I have to say. It was fun to watch, and I think SmackDown this week as a whole, not to ramble on, did a really good job of short, quick segments, short, quick entertaining segments. It's not a thing that you could do every week, but it was a nice breath of fresh air from the usual, more drawn out segments. I don't think there was a match on the card that lasted more than 10 minutes.
No, there wasn't. They didn't linger on anything too long. I'll give them that. I'm glad you differ with me on this. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I certainly did not. But that's cool. I mean, like that's the point of everyone has a little bit of everything in the show, and you got something out of this. I did not. But that's fine. I think that, you're right with Bianca, but her promos are not great. She has yet to tell me anything that makes me feel something for her. Outside of how great she is in the ring. We all knew that. And there is that one benefactor that, yes, the women aren't always fighting over the belt. And there are other things going on. That is very true. That is something that's a positive, albeit, I think, not a great setup for these two. I think it could have been at least put in a little bit more truth and believability than just let's run an obstacle course. I'm not a fan of that kind of extracurricular stuff. Never have been. I mean, I've never been a big, let's have an arm wrestling match. Like we've seen that in the past. Like I don't like arm wrestling matches. or gravy bowl fights, or food fights that WWE does, or in this case, just basically a track and field setup on the outside. I don't. It's not what I watch wrestling for. I watch wrestling for believability and engaging storylines, believable characters, and not this kind of fluff that's in the show. But it's there because there's an audience for it, and I mean the numbers bear it out. So it is what it is, and so. But kind of moving on, did you have anything else on Raw or SmackDown that you want to touch on before we close out? I know there's certainly other things. I mean, like we didn't touch on some certain matches, and like the Hurt Business we didn't even mention, of course. But was there anything else? Because I mean, this could go on forever. I don't want to keep you. So, is there anything else?
No, I mean, like you said, there's a couple things we didn't touch on that I can't even. I ranted about it last night on my show about the Hurt Business, and I'm sure you saw it too. The stomping of thin air that apparently crippled Matt. I mean, Matt. They came out and his foot was wrapped so clearly. That must have been pre-filmed. You couldn't have edited that. We were just talking about that. I can't even give that time of day. And then there was the King Corbin Dominic Mysterio match, which has no continuity, considering apparently Dominic Mysterio can take former world champion Seth Rollins to the limit, but gets squashed by Baron Corbin. I don't get it. The one thing I guess, if out of all these things I wanted to ask you your opinion on was the what you thought of the Big E Apollo Crews IC title match and Sami Zayn as a whole. Sami Zayn on strike, as well as his interference in this match.
Now, I'll say this. Sami Zayn is one of those air quote heels that I was talking about at the beginning of the show. I think Sami Zayn is, he's booked as a heel, but come on, the guy is so damn entertaining. How can I hate him? I mean, I know people are getting annoyed by this, this ultimate conspiracy theorist. I love it. I love that he has his own crew. I would love it even more if that was actually, camera, if it was actually going to be a documentary. Like, this isn't just, guys holding a camera that's not recording. I really hope that somehow this is a true documentary. That would make it even better. I love that he handcuffed himself. He said, that I'm being screwed. There's a conspiracy. He said, change my mind, which obviously is a play on another YouTube channel, which I won't talk about because it's political and all that. But it was a play on that. He has been a masterful guy on the mic, in the ring. Everything to him is a conspiracy against him. I love that logic. It's hilarious because as he continues to lose, the bigger the conspiracy gets, and he's going to eventually lose his mind. I think it's hilarious to watch, and he's taking something that is, could be crap, and he's turning it into something really, really good and hilarious to watch. So, the Apollo Crews Big E, I like that Sami Zayn came in and finally got a little bit of retribution, so to speak, on Apollo Crews and Big E, laying them out with haluba kicks, because too often Sami Zayn's the one left laying. So I'm glad that he got a little bit of measure of revenge. Of course, next week, if I'm not mistaken, we're getting a rematch again for Apollo Crews versus Big E for the Intercontinental Championship. I think that's what they advertised. I was kind of scrolling through my phone at the time. But that if that happens, then yeah, Sami Zayn you would think is close behind, of which Sami Zayn should be probably barred from ringside or whatnot. Given that there won't be a title change for Big E's Intercontinental Championship a week or a days before the Rumble. It's just not going to happen. So I'm a big Sami Zayn fan. I think Apollo Crews talking with Roman Reigns last week, it was unexplored, or at least not fleshed out yet. So maybe it can turn to nothing and they just are going to ignore it. I hope it's not. I hope Apollo Crews is truly turning heel and that he will align himself with Roman Reigns. Maybe it'll be at the Rumble that we get Apollo Crews screwing Kevin Owens. I mean, that could happen. But I'm with you. And lastly, on the Dominic Mysterio, I'm so uninspired by Dominic. Yeah, he's good in the ring, but fine. He's so boring outside of the ring that even what he does in the ring, I don't care to watch, because his personality is just so bland. And there's nothing there that he's shown me that I should care about him other than, okay, he's Rey Mysterio's son. And those are my thoughts.
Yeah, you want to talk about comparison to Charlotte Flair, right? Having the door opened and either kicking it down or just tiptoeing through. And Nia Jax is another perfect example of that too. But I'm with you about Sami Zayn. Dominic Mysterio too. You're making me laugh. My fiance is the same way. I mean, he has the most heel heat out of anybody to her. She screams at the TV when he comes on. I don't want to watch this. I hate this guy. Yada yada yada. I get it. I understand where she's coming from. He's, like you said, he's bland. That's great. You know, Ricochet's really good in the ring too. AJ Styles is really good in the ring. There's a lot of plenty of guys where everybody in essentially on the show, especially the male competitors, are all great in the ring. Like, I'm with you. You need something else. But and I'm also with you about Sami Zayn. I thought they did a really good job of not overexposing it. You know, not making everything about him being on strike. They did. I think even that cool blurred camera view thing that they're doing now was funny to see him out in the background like that. I love it. If I were WWE, I wouldn't put another rematch next week if that's what's going to happen. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about that, but I believe you. I would have had some kind of, you know, Apollo Crews, Big E, or Apollo Crews match with Sami Zayn, and then have Apollo Crews, you know, kick the crap out of Sami Zayn in true Roman Reigns style, you know, and flesh out, like you said. I'm excited for that. I think Apollo Crews could be an incredible heel. WWE has this great knack at taking the things that they think are going to get people over its faces, but are actually making us hate him, and turning that into a heel thing, like Apollo Crews' big smile, or that thing that happens at the beginning of his entrance music. Like, have him do some great move and flash like a big smile into the camera. I'll want to hit the guy, because again, nobody's that happy all the time. Like, I think they could really use what they thought were his positives and turn them into a negative. So I'm with you. I think that was, I'm hoping this gets fleshed out. I'm actually kind of happy it hasn't yet. Maybe they're dragging this out a little bit longer, and I'm excited to see that. So that's all I have to say about it. I just wanted to make sure we covered that, especially that we gave Sami Zayn some credit, because what brilliant Sami Zayn is every week on TV.
And I feel like he's not getting enough. Like, I want to see more of Sami Zayn, and he's often an afterthought, at least in the presentation of the creative. I want to see him more. I want to hear from him more. I want to hear about his insane conspiracy theories that everyone's out to get him, everyone's out to screw him. He still believes he's the Intercontinental Champion. He's just not, you know, carrying the belt. All of this. It's so good. I love what he's done, and I hope that there's a bigger plan for him. I think there's probably not. He's probably just a week to week. Oh yeah, we forgot about Sammy. What's he doing this week? Or, you know, I feel like that's how they look at Sammy, and I feel like he has a much, much bigger role at least could. I mean, I'd even elevate him to the World Championship level. You know, I think that he could absolutely. Of course, Roman Reigns has that spot and is doing incredibly well, but in a normal environment where there's a very uninspiring, even babyface champion, you could have had Sami Zayn carry the World Heavyweight Championship, or the Universal Championship, as I should clarify. So before we go, I do want to ask, though, because as promised, who are your current picks for the Royal Rumble with the men and women?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll start off on the women, just because I think last time I was on the show, I think I told you Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley or someone. And I really have this dream scenario in my head where Rhea Ripley comes, wins the Royal Rumble, faces Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, avenges that loss. And I told you I'm a Charlotte Flair fan, but I want to see her lose to Rhea Ripley. I think that would be a great story being told. I'd love to see her in another empty arena like that, and they could do some kind of play off the last little promo they did last year. But when I think about it, I'm thinking, you know, she's high up too, I think, in probability of winning. I'm thinking Vince McMahon is not, even in the Women's Royal Rumble, Vince McMahon is not going to have an NXT superstar win the Royal Rumble. I'm sticking by that. Until it happens, you know, you probably won't be able to convince me otherwise. So I'm almost detracting my pick. She's probably moving down to 3 or something. And I don't know. I mean, they could do Bayley again and have Bayley and Sasha at WrestleMania. I'm kind of uninspired, but whatever. It'll be a good match. I didn't think about this, as we even said we would talk about at the end. So now I'm going off the top of my head. Let's see. I wouldn't mind if Carmella won, but that would be weird considering she's in the title picture now. I don't think they're going to go with the typical Bianca Belair or somebody that people are calling. I think let's see Billie Kay win the Royal Rumble. I'd love to see that. But I don't know. Maybe let's go Sonya Deville. Let's stick with Sonya Deville. Let's see her come out of this management role that it seems like, maybe she needs a little time to get more ready to be in the ring. Maybe she's still kind of recovering from the traumatic experience that she went to, like real life traumatic stuff. I'd say take all the time you need, but let's have Sonya Deville win, be a surprise entrant number 30, which is probably going to be Lana. If Lana wins the Royal Rumble, Matt, I'm quitting this podcast. But if Sonya Deville wins, that I guess I'm going for more what I'm hoping for. I would love to see her win and go on and win at WrestleMania. She'll probably get a pop, but then, keep her heel from the next show because I think she was so good. On the men's, again, people are saying Big E a lot. I don't want to. I think we talked about this last time too. I don't want that yet. Let me want that more, maybe Dominic Mysterio will win. That's another opportunity where I will quit. I don't know. I guess this is the problem with the lack of elevated talent, on the, I need to scroll through the roster. Randy Orton's another person I don't want to see win and I'm scared might win. You know what I didn't think about is Shayna Baszler. I think they could really recover Shayna Baszler as the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble match. But for the men, maybe AJ Styles. I think AJ Styles and Omos are so good they could be in the main event territory. Bobby Lashley's another guy I'd love to see. I think that would be awesome. Even a Bobby Lashley Goldberg match, fine. As long as they put Bobby Lashley over, I think that would be great. But I think I think I'm going with Bobby Lashley and Sonya Deville, but I'll talk to you next week and it'll be somebody probably completely different. What about you?
Yeah, so Sonya Deville was at the top of my list for weeks because I am a huge Sonya Deville fan. What she did with Mandy Rose during the pre-WrestleMania promos was eye-opening, to say the least. What she did was just, make you say to yourself, where the hell has this woman been the last 2 years or wherever she was in the WWE main roster for? It was absolutely amazing what she was able to do on the microphone. Her presence, her in-ring just ability, obviously, is certainly commendable. I have nothing against her in ring, but personality is where she really grabs me. Her personality and promos are so good that I'm thinking to myself, how can you not make this woman champion? And they put her in a management role again, which is weird. But again, as you said, maybe it is just her kind of easing back into things after what happened with her. And it very well could be. It very well could be just saying, see how things go. We'll put you in a management position. When you're ready, we'll throw you into, the active roster. And it could be truly it. I don't know. I don't know that answer. But I was hoping it was Sonya Deville. I've said that for weeks. Until last week, I've changed my thought to Alexa Bliss. I'm thinking Alexa Bliss could win. Not that I would say the Fiend doesn't need the championship, but she hasn't held the championship in quite some time. I don't think that she has really had the opportunity to shine with the championship, and all the progress she's made, I think WWE recognizes that. They know the fans are really behind what she's done. She may be one of the most improved stars of the year, calendar, or I guess fiscal year, not necessarily calendar, because we're only a few weeks into 2021, but certainly this is maybe Alexa's time to shine, and she could, do that transformation thing she did with the Asuka match on Raw, where she just transforms. No one can, put her over the top rope, and she wins the match. I mean, it's very possible. So I'm going with Alexa Bliss there. Sonya Deville is a close second. I would love Sonya Deville, but I think Alexa Bliss is probably going to win. As far as the men go, man, no one's going to, well, I think people may like this, is that we're going to have Bill Goldberg beat Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. People are going to lose their minds. Twitter's going to explode. And then you're going to have Drew McIntyre enter the men's Royal Rumble and win the Royal Rumble. Effectively not re-challenging Goldberg, but challenging Roman Reigns for his Universal Championship to main event WrestleMania. That is my thought. Of course, this could go 100 ways, and I could be totally wrong, and I'm probably am, but that's my thinking as of right now.
Yeah, I hate both those picks. I think you're 100% right. I would hate if both those things happen. I agree with Alexa Bliss. I don't know. I think there's so many other women who could do the spot right now on championship picture, and I don't think she needs to be in that. I think she is great where she is right now. I don't think you need to put a belt on it, but WWE sees anybody getting a good reaction, and not anybody, I guess, but who sees who they want to see getting a good reaction. All of a sudden they get put in the title picture. As you were talking real quick, I thought of two other people too, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Cesaro being one of them. I think if they had him win this year, it would be silly considering there are no fans in the arena, and that would probably be the biggest pop you got since Edge returned. So that is an option. I think it would be awesome. And then speaking of with no fans, I mean, they're supposedly, like you said, there's going to have a couple fans, or they're going to have a lot, but definitely not as many as they could have in the arena. if they didn't have fans, I'm wondering what you would think of another Charlotte Flair win in the Royal Rumble back-to-back, more so probably so they can say that she's the only woman to have ever won back-to-back Royal Rumbles and 2 Royal Rumbles, and there's not fans to give their live reaction, So that's a possibility, too. I think Charlotte Flair is always on the high up list. I'm not saying I want that. I think there's a lot of other women who deserve a chance right now, particularly, like I said, Rhea Ripley. I would love for that to happen. But I'm curious about both both those picks.
First of all, I would love Cesaro to win. I think Cesaro is one of those guys that has a Daniel Bryan story inside of him that hasn't been let out yet. Because the fans have seen Cesaro for years and years and years just put on great matches and not get a fair shake with a championship, a major championship. I feel like fans feel that he's been disserviced and he's been the good soldier for how many years in WWE. And I think that given an opportunity, he could have a Kofi Kingston moment like the Elimination Chamber from a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was, where fans all of a sudden explode and are like, oh my God, we need to get behind him now, or it's now or never. But with no fans there, of course, as you mentioned, it gets a little bit harder, other than if WWE is just closely monitoring Twitter to see what's trending. But could Cesaro win? He's in my top 5, maybe number 5, number 6. Not who I want, but who I think in WWE land, in their sometimes warped minds, that Cesaro probably isn't at that level to win. But they've also elevated him the last couple weeks. But I think it's too little too late. There hasn't been a consistent build for him. It's just been as of late. Same with Shinsuke. He's kind of at that same level as Cesaro, probably lower, given he's already won. So that's what I think. I don't think Cesaro's going to win. He could be the final 5 in the match if he gets that far. And he'll probably have some good eliminations. But it probably will end up being Shinsuke Nakamura and or Cesaro eliminating one or the other, leading to their match at WrestleMania or matches leading to WrestleMania. So that's the whole purpose, I think, of those two being the matches, to eventually get to a program with them. So on the other side, with the women, Charlotte winning again, again, this comes down to, are fans going to be resentful if the goal is to keep Charlotte Flair a babyface, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. She should be a babyface. It never feels comfortable. It always feels forced. You can't call yourself the queen and tell people to bow down to you and still be a babyface. It doesn't work. Charlotte Flair, it doesn't exuberate a babyface character. She's not as relatable as, say, a Becky Lynch was, or even like a Natalya to some degree, where she's kind of like that more common feel to her of like a relatable character, where a queen is not relatable. So if she's cast as a heel and turns heel, I think it's good. But if they're continuing in thinking that her winning twice in a row is going to be a babyface move, I think they will be severely proven wrong if fans are in an arena to react. So I'm not against it on a personal level. I think it'll be good for her career. I think that anywhere you put Charlotte Flair, as you mentioned, you're guaranteed to have a great match. She cuts good promos. She doesn't cut great promos. I think that's probably where Charlotte could improve, if there's an area, is promos. But I don't think that Charlotte Flair winning and continuing the babyface character is smart. So I think that's going to be the key, is where do they see her in terms of the casting. And so short answer, I think it's a good move if you're going to make her heel.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that too. I forgot that part. Definitely a heel move. And that, again, that's me wanting some kind of Charlotte Asuka match. Again, another great rematch that I think could go the other way around, where Charlotte loses at WrestleMania, get Asuka, have her vengeance. So just some thoughts, but it's been great talking again with you. I think I said this on my show before. This is my highlight of the week, to be able to just play in the sandbox for a little bit and forget everything else that is going on. I'm super excited for the Royal Rumble, as crappy as Raw has been and as good as SmackDown's been, and no fans. Even though there's been no fans, and there probably won't be any fans in No Countdown, there's something special about the Royal Rumble. So this is my favorite time in wrestling. It's
absolutely, and I'm really glad that you were able to come on. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views, if not the favorite pay-per-view of the year. I know that everyone seems to feel it's original to say that this is my favorite pay-per-view, and it's not WrestleMania. This is mine. We've heard it so many times that it's like, okay, it's so commonplace now, but it's true. It's such a great format, and Pat Patterson is going to be forever remembered for coming up with this idea. This is a pay-per-view that will never go away. It is one of the most exciting because you never know when that buzzer hits who's coming out. I don't think, if people are asking, because I've had people ask me and email me, I don't think, the more I think about it, that Edge is going to return at the Rumble. I think that's going to wait until Randy Orton and The Fiend have concluded completely. So I just want to get that out there. Edge is on his way back, but I think it's going to be probably in a few weeks. Leading into getting closer to WrestleMania, which inevitably will be Randy Orton and Edge, I think. So, but yeah, Mimi, it's been awesome, like you said, to get away from all the just insanity that has been going on in 2020, and now 2021's no better so far. Regardless of where you stand politically, it's just stressful as hell. This is not a political show, but people always say to me, hey, I don't pay attention to politics. I don't really care. I'm like, well, even if you don't care or pay attention, it's going to affect your life, especially with, everything going on. So I'm glad that, you and I were able to get our minds off it, and whatever else is stressing out in your life and in my life and everyone else's life who's listening. This is what it's for. This is what we talk about, to get your mind off it, to get our minds off of whatever you got going on, good, bad, indifferent, or you just want to chill out and have a beer and listen to us. That's cool too. And I'm really glad you could come on, Mimi, and certainly we'll do this again after the Royal Rumble. We'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, post Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I'll say is I'm calling it Tamina 2021 Women's Royal Rumble match winner. Hashtag Tamina.
Yeah, put your money on Tamina. Yeah, absolutely. Put just the smart money is on Tamina, who comes back every 4 months to have a match and goes away again. Yes. So thank you so much, Mimi. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will be in touch. And don't forget, everybody, listen to her Highs and Lows of the Week that drops every Sunday morning. So, Mimi, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.